few weeks ago, we talked about the illustration rares. We talked about how they were running up. And, I kind of was saying, hey guys, maybe we should chill out on the illustration rares. And, for the most part, people were kind of understanding of that. But, there was some, and I totally get the perspective, right? And we're going to talk about quite a few illustration rares today. But the argument that I was getting, most of the feedback was, I showed this card to my wife, and I showed another more expensive card, and this is the card that she picked that thought was better art. And I've never denied, right? The Drowzee is a nice card. It's great. It's a very unique art. Scarlet and Violet Era has tons of unique art. My only point was, this was not a $90 card. I mean, we saw sales on eBay at $100 even, some even a little bit over that. This was just not a $90 card. You have to take the Pokemon uh into account, I think. I just don't think Drowsy is popular enough to maintain these kind of prices. And this is what we're looking at now. And it's not just this card. We're going to talk about other cards, but at the peak right here, 85, but you see sales, it does show $99 on TCG, and now we're at 56. All right, so if you were and you can see the most sales right here on February 19th at $82. That's when the most sales were. So if you were buying here, and now you're down 56 $56, but lowest listeds, we're at like 48, which is even less than 56. So last solds, we have one as low as 37. There is one as high as 75 with a photo. Now, the other side of the coin, there could have been a lot of people who bought cards in here for the grading play, right? And maybe they come out with just a few gradable copies is all you really need, because the Drowsy is selling for a crap ton in a PSA 10, extremely hard to grade, right? So there is that aspect to it. I'm not denying that, okay? I was just saying, a lot of these illustration rares, when they shoot up, just to be careful. They're like, don't chase these big, massive spikes, right? Because you've seen how much it's retraced. Now, if you zoom out a little bit more, we go back to the 3 month chart. You can see this was a $16 card. It came up to 38, went back down to 30, and then before our big shoot up that we had recently. Now, I'm not saying that, after this shoot up, this doesn't set a higher low, right? That's definitely possible. It's brought a lot more attention, a lot more eyes to it. So, I'm not saying that it's not going to have higher value than the $30 mark, okay? Just don't chase the highs. I mean, and then you have a card here like, the Arctibax from Paldea Evolved, and look where this one's at. Like, unfortunately, it went from an $8 card up to 45, right? And then it's cooled off to like 20, and last sold 16 right here. Most recent sales 16, which would, once again, maybe it sets a higher low, but look how like this one's come off real far. So be careful out there, guys. That's the only thing. And once again, not that this is not unique artwork. I like this card. It's great looking. Okay, I was never in denial of the art, right? Lowest listed on this guy looks like around 17 ish, $17, which is, percentage wise quite a bit below currently where it's even at 20. Okay. We have cards like the Houndour, which is a card I really like from Obsidian Flames. Uh, but it went from, it was a $4 or $5 card. $4 or $5 potentially undervalued, but like look at the quantity on this one. A lot of Houndours available. It shot up to 32, and now we're at 15. Okay, $15 market. So you know that's all I'm saying. It's this video. I know it's gonna come across as the "I told you so" video. It wasn't. It's not super meant to be like that. I'm not really trying to hound you guys for it, because there wasn't a ton of people in the comments, but there was a vocal amount, and I just wanted to bring it up. Like, this is why we said not to chase these, right? And I like this card. It's a nice card. Um, Lowest listed on the Houndours around 14 shipped, which is not too far below where we're currently at. So once again, if it settles around, um I don't know, it could come back down to like where it was right here at the 13 $14 mark, which is, some of these cards, if they don't have enough demand to, and that's why I talk about setting a higher low when a card explodes, even if it's an alternate art, any sort of card, You want to see it set a higher low. And we've seen some cards, back in like May when we had I call it the alt art boom, not before the bull market we're in right now. We had a big alt art boom, and some of the cards, the lesser cards, they shot up real big, and some of them actually retraced like all the way back to their previous point, right? So they didn't set a higher low. So that doesn't show, in my opinion, that there's enough demand to hold on to that price point, right? So that's something that I look at when we're talking about these cards. And then the Frigibacks, I mean, once again, we're in the same, Arctibacks, the same evolution line. Right. It's a nice looking card. There's lots of colors. And this one, you can see on this one, though, the peak of the sales was before, right? You didn't have a lot of people buying at the peak, right? This was a run up, okay? So, this one ran up to 32, and now we're down in the 20s. It was in the 10s before. So we'll see where it ends up. This one's maybe, well, once again, I don't know where they're going to end up per se. Like they could set higher lows. They could just keep slowly falling off until they get back to where they were. We don't know. And that's why when it comes to the speculative investing, singles are volatile. Singles are risky. Now you play the potential upside. Like I get it. There are cards that do run after stuff like this, and they continue to go up, and that's where the FOMO sets in, right? You go, well, shoot, the Drowzee, if it's at $80, what if it goes to 150, and then you miss out. So I understand the chase, and sometimes in some cases it does pay off, but uh, mostly able to identify these lesser common like these not as popular Pokemon as the ones that you probably want to avoid for that, right? Another one like the Brute Bonnet, extremely unique card art wise, right? He's chilling right here. I mean, it's a cool card, but same thing, $7-8, shot up to 36, and now we're down at 17. Okay, so you can see the fall off here, being very massive, right? And this one's from Paradox Rift. Paradox Rift, and a lot of nice illustration rares in Paradox Rift, but just the fall off. And once again, I don't think there's that many Brute Bonnet fans. That's just the truth, right? Drowzee, I can hear the argument for Drowzee more. I can hear the argument for Slowpoke, Gen 1 Pokemon. And that's my favorite. I'm a Gen 1 guy. But still, like, even so, I that's why I was a little wary, because it's like, Drowzee and not really my favorite. Maybe Slowpoke more, but like, you know what I'm saying? So, and the market agreed with that. So that's all I am saying is we can identify. We can do a better job of identifying some of these cards a little bit better. And then the Greavard, right? And also too, the other reason that we're talking about this video is a lot of it has been cards going up. Everything's going up right now, right? And now we're at a point where, this is an example of not everything goes up all the time forever. So that's another reason why we're talking about it right now, okay? It's not just I'm going to hammer all these illustration rares on you guys and prove my point. It's to, like, maybe if you've gotten in the hobby recently, you've only seen stuff go up, right? So it's just important to know. Like, I mean, the 1 month chart, look at the Greavard, which, by the way, I like this card a lot. I like all the little plushies and stuff. You got your Gengar and your Ghastly. It's a fun card, but this one's down 37%, right? You can see a lot of the sales were before the run up. This was a $4 or $5 card, ran up to 24, 25, and now it's kind of fallen off. You can see the most recent sale around $10. Lowest listed's around 15, which is kind of at market. So maybe this card does settle around 15, which would be, if you bought at the $5 mark and now it's 15 and you tripled your money, that's great. There are these cards that are undervalued. A lot of illustration rares were undervalued for a long time. A lot of those $1, $2, $3 illustration rares too. Definitely could see the argument for undervalued. But then too, you have the quantity right here. And this is what happens when a card runs up. Not everyone is super tuned into the market like all the time with all these singles moving, right? And they see like, oh, the Greavard shot up 400%. I have that. And then they start listing, and then another guy goes, oh, well, someone's selling there's at 25. Well, I'll go 24. And then a guy goes, wow, I got mine for $2 back in the day, so I'll go 23, 22, and then they undercut each other when there's a large amount of supply, right? So that's a thing that happens with sellers as well. They want to make that money off of their card, and it's a contributing factor, right? And a little bit less demand for the card. Then we have like the Slowpoke, right? And once again, the Slowpoke, this is a fun card. He's like a little derpy, hanging out. It's fine. It's a nice card, but we started to see this one retrace a little bit as well. And when you look at the sales too, like this is one of those ones where most of the sales are before, so you don't see a ton of people buying at the peak, right? Unlike some of the other cards, but this was a $20 illust. Well, we'll zoom out. 3 months ago, 13, $14. It started to climb. $20. I can see the value there. But then it shot up, into the 40s, and now it's come back down into the 30s. So not as crazy, but it's a little bit more recent, on this run up. So maybe give it a little more time. Once again, this could, cards like this, they can say right here it plateaus for a while, and then it could run again. Like I don't know, nobody knows for certain, but just don't chase these explosive peaks is the lesson here. And the Starly, it's a nice illustration rare from SV Base. And this one, it's still up 65% in the past month, but you can see it peaked at around 15 and now it's already down to 12. So this one's not as crazy of a fall off yet. So we'll have to track this one a little bit further, right? And see, because once again, this was more recent. It wasn't that long ago that it just hit the $16 mark. So, but it's already starting to fall off is the point. And you can see, some sales kind of varying 10, 15, but it's low as 9 in there. And then, I don't know what this one's even as low as 5. And these are recent sales, so I don't know. Maybe somebody didn't know and they listed this at $2.50. They didn't pay attention to what was going on with the pricing of the cards. So you got the Starly, and then there's the other cards. Now these type of illustration rares, I kind of classify in a different category, right? These are the ones that are a little bit more easily identifiable as good illustration rares, in my opinion. So I think that Houndoom is a popular Pokemon. I think this art style is very cool. Now this one, if we zoom out, 6 months even, you can see it was already around the $20 mark, and this one shot up pretty big to around 50. You could see on that little range right there, sales as high as 65 on TCG Player. I did see some other places where I want to say on eBay we had some copies shooting kind of high in value as well. And this one, it has cooled off, but not that much, right? Because I would identify this as a stronger card, a much more popular Pokemon. Maybe a little bit of bias from me because I do like Houndoom. I like Houndoom a fair amount. So, but the market tends to agree with this as it's kind of holding, and this is what you see a lot. They shoot up and they come back down a little for the more popular cards, the more popular Pokemon, right? So the Houndoom, it doesn't matter that it's from Shrouded Fable, right? So the set doesn't always matter, even if Shrouded Fable wasn't popular. When you get a popular illustration rare from any set, they can do this, and so it hasn't really come off that much. Now that doesn't mean that this one can't go down a little bit more. It can't go on another run, right? Illustration rares, we have the big ones like your Magikarp, your Groudon. So we have proven established cards that can hold high price points. But the Magikarp, being paired with the Gyarados in the card, plus with the artist, I think that's what's doing a lot of work for that card. And then Groudon being like on another level of popularity, I think, right? So these are the things we look at. So yeah, the Houndoom's down around 5%, right? In the past a month, and you can see the sales, if we exclude these Japanese sales, pretty consistent in the 40s. So it could just stay here for a while before we see something move. And then, kind of a similar thing-ish with the Persian. The Persian, same thing from Shrouded Fable. It's a nice card. I know that a lot of people were making this more of a speculative play with the Team Rocket set coming out. But also potentially undervalued. But you can see this one in the last month's fallen off 12%. Nothing, I mean, 12%, but it's still up 123% in the past 3 months. It was a $27, $28 card. You can see a lot of purchases right here. And then it ran up to around 70s. And same thing, not that this is not a nice card, and it's going to set a higher low when it retraces most likely. So that's where you got to see it's been in a little bit of a free fall, but not that crazy. 76 to to if we go to 56, that is a $20 drop off. So that is I mean, that's a sizable chunk, but comparatively to where it was at, 20s, it's still currently still over double its price it was before. So that's the game you play with the speculative singles, right? And like I said, maybe people in here are getting gradable copies, and they're going to make money because the Persian is hard to grade. All the illustration rares are hard to grade, and they have high ceilings for return on the PSA 10s. But for me, it's just a little too volatile. If you want to pick one up for your collection, I would just watch this thing as it falls off and see where it bottoms out before it starts. And then when you start to see the uptick, then maybe pick one up for your collection kind of thing. So that's where, yeah, I don't do a lot of speculative singles investing. And then we got a few other lesser examples here, but some nice artwork that I do think is worth talking about. You got the Armor Rouge from Scarlet and Violet base. It's a nice looking card. And this one, it just recently kind of shot up with some of the other ones around 18 bucks, and now it's down to around 16. It's not as crazy of an example, right? This is one where if you guys want to keep an eye on it moving forward, see how far this one comes off. 3 months ago it was around 10 bucks, a little under. So shooting up to 18, not the craziest like run up as some of the other cards either. So just something to keep an eye on. SV base getting expensive. The boxes are starting to get expensive, and I think that's playing a big factor in a lot of this. So we'll see where this one ends up. It might be a good little. I don't think Armor Rouge is that popular for Pokemon either, but it's just another thing worth keeping note of. Like, where does the Armor Rouge end up? If you want to see it, follow it, because it's kind of like on its way down still a little bit. So just something for you guys if you want to kind of try and track one. Recent sales though, there is an $18 sale, but before that 15, 16. So it has been kind of consistent. So maybe this is one of those ones that sets a higher low, and there's more demand than I realized for, and it just finds its like nice floor. Then we have the Cresselia. This one's from Shrouded Fable as well. It is a nice looking card, but this one's down 20% in the past month alone. It went from 31 down to 25, which isn't the biggest dollar drop here, but percentage wise, that is pretty big. And you can see it's still up, 170% versus being a $9 card. So that's all it is. That's all I have for you guys on this one. It's just the fall off on these cards. Some of them is real, and yes, there are more examples right out there. We can't pull up every single illustration rare, and there's going to be variance between them all. They're not all going to be exactly the same. They're not going to have the same run-ups. They're not going to have the same dips. It's just, this is the reality of Pokemon singles. They can be very volatile, and even in that video when I talked about the illustration rares, and it's kind of saying to be careful, right? There was and I've mentioned it a few times now, but there was an article that TCG Player actually put out about the Greninja that I did think was interesting. And they said that, with the Greninja, albeit Greninja is a very, very popular Pokemon, so like definitely different tier than what we're talking about now. But they were talking about the Greninja was a buyout from one seller that originally started that run, right? So that it can like burn like a wildfire when you have the right context for everything, right? The perfect storm, if you will. So they were saying that was a kind of what started the Greninja price run up, because the Greninja wasn't always as expensive as it was from Twilight Masquerade, and that kind of gave us our first big chase card of the era, first card that really started holding some value on the single side. So I think I don't know how many people were using that as an example. I don't think realistically anyone was going, oh, the Greninja, shot up and it just kept running, so I think the Drowzee is going to do that. I'm not saying that, but there is that aspect. People have that in their back of their mind, so it can happen to certain cards, but I think they're a little bit more identifiable as the potentials to do that. So yeah, that's all I have for this one, guys. I just wanted to touch on that. Once again, I wasn't really trying to call anyone out. If you were one of those people who were vocal about the art, it's fine. I just I just trying to protect people just a little bit, and I do appreciate the arts of these cards, like that Drowzee card. I have that Drowzee card. I pulled that Drowzee card back when SV base released, which would have been what, 2 years ago now, 2023. I actually March. Oh, I think was it March release? I can't remember when SV Base came out. I want to say around that time, March 2023. So yeah, around 2 years ago now, I think for the Drowzee card. Um, but yeah, that it's just a fun. It is a fun, interesting topic to talk about, and you guys can track some of these cards with me, and I'll update you guys down the road since we're doing daily uploads. So I'll let you guys know. But my name is TJ. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, it was never a phase.